You're listening to the Roofing Success Podcast, a show created to inspire roofing contractors to achieve optimal success in their roofing businesses. I'm the host, Jim Aline, the co-author of the books Internet Marketing for Roofing Contractors and The Best Known Roofer. I'm also the co-founder of Roofer Marketers, the leading digital marketing agency for the roofing industry. On each episode, I sit down with industry leaders to talk about their processes, the lessons they've learned, and how to find success in roofing. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. As always, hit that follow, subscribe, leave us a review, comment. You know, my phone number's in the description here. Shoot me a text. Tell me if you want to see something different or you know how you're feeling about the episodes. Go follow us on all the social media channels. Go subscribe on YouTube if you're watching it there. And if you want to take the conversation beyond what you're listening to here, go to Facebook, type in Roofing Success, and join the Roofing Success Facebook group. So today we're with Andrew Keys of FoxHaven Roofing down in Florida. How you doing today, man?
How you doing, Jim? Doing good.
Awesome, bro. So, you know, the question that I always like to start with is, how did you get into roofing?
I'm from Pennsylvania. My dad has a roofing company. He still has
Okay.
one today, so he's still in business. So just summers as a kid, cleaning up shingles off the ground. Like 13 years old, I started. He never wanted me to be a roofer. He wanted me to go to college and do other things. I was kind of a little problem kid, so I was always getting into trouble and everything. You know, college didn't work out. Nothing really worked out for me, so I'd always end up back working for my dad's company. So I did more roofing than anything else growing up.
Nice.
Then I kind of got into drugs a little bit. So I lived in Pennsylvania. I went to a bunch of rehab facilities up there. Nothing was working out. So I got sent to Florida, basically like exiled. My family said, you got to go down there and figure it out. We can't deal with you anymore. So I went to a rehab down here, got out of there. And the only thing I really knew how to do and knew how to make money at was roofing. So I started roofing. And that's where it all started, really.
That's awesome. So, I mean, you were, you know, and I've heard this story a lot of times, you know, family business, right? Like it's the family business and that could go two ways. That could go a couple of ways. I talked to some contractors that are like, I want to make this a family legacy. But your family your dad was like, hey, go do something else. This is hard work.
He saw it as a hard life. And he thought that I could do something, I guess, better with my life.
Better. Yeah. Is that's
how he viewed it. It's funny now, though, because I have a pretty good relationship with him. And, like, you know, we go back and forth about things we're dealing with. And he's proud of me. And I'm like, I'm getting somewhere in life. So it worked out. But he never wanted this for me.
Yeah. It's crazy the paths that we go down, right? Like, so college didn't work out for you, you know, got in some trouble, got into, you know, drugs and things and got it now rehab and, you know, rehab to a point where your family's like, hey, we really got to, you know, you really got to take care of this. You know, how was that move to Florida and, you know, getting through rehab? There's a lot of guys out there that struggle, man. I've had, you know, my, Jonathan Sherwood on the podcast with Roofers in Recovery. You know, we've talked about a lot of this stuff. They do a lot of great work, you know, for the community. And because it's, you know, it's almost baked into the culture of roofing, you know, you know, drugs and alcohol. It's unfortunately a big part of it. And so, or not a big part of it, but a lot of people get into it. Right. Now you went down, you started rehab. When you came out, did you just go and get a job on a crew? How'd you get in after you were, you know, after that?
Yeah. I went to a roofer in my area. I told him I had a crew. I asked him if he had work. He said, yeah. I got 4 guys from an AA meeting that had never been on a roof before in their life. And that's how we started. And we were so slow because I had to do everything. They'd never been on a roof before. Nobody knew anything. I was the only one that knew how to do it. So I wasn't making any money because we're paid by the square, and we were slow because I had a bunch of new guys. But that's how I started.
That's awesome, man. Like that takes some guts to do that, right? Like
it's crazy when I look back at it like that. I thought it was going to work out all good, but that was the start.
You're like, hey, I got these guys that I'm talking, you know, we're friends now at the AA meeting. They're good guys. Well, you know, they could swing it. They could swing a hammer. They could climb a ladder. Well, you know.
We all lived in halfway houses. We were like a month sober, and That was the roofing crew. We ended up being a decent crew after a while. It started off rocky, but we actually got pretty good at it.
Nice,
I
man.
did that for like 2 years before I got the roofing license because I'm in Florida. You got to,
Yep.
like, the licensing's pretty intense. So about 2 years like that before I was able to get the license and go out on my own.
Have you kept that kind of that culture in your business? Have you continued to recruit from the recovery community?
Early on, yes, but
Yeah.
now not typically. No,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate to say, but the success rate is very low.
Yeah.
So doing
Yeah.
it that way, it's a lot of turnover. It's a lot of extra headaches outside of the work, just with
So
guys falling off, not showing up, stuff like
for
that.
sure. And so for, for those guys, man, or for those people, like there's a, what what helped you get things on track and build build FoxHaven the way you have? What was that motivation? What do you think the difference is? What is the slight difference in the things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis that some of these guys that just or some of these people that they just aren't making it?
The beginning's the hardest.
Yeah.
It's really uncomfortable. You don't really know how to live without substances. Uh, you just got to hang in there in the beginning and stay around people, positive influences for you. But then once you see your life start to take off and you see yourself going somewhere, and it starts to build on itself. Like,
Yeah.
I started to, I'm starting to make a little bit of better money. I'm moving into a better place. The business is starting to pick up. You start to move forward, and then you just create momentum, and then you really never look back.
Yeah, it's like positive reinforcement, right? The world is giving you that positive reinforcement that you're doing the right thing. So maybe sometimes those people hit roadblocks where they're not seeing that in their life.
Yeah, because it takes a while. It takes a year,
Man.
2 years, 3 years for that stuff to start to build. So you kind of just have to hang in there in the beginning.
Yeah, it's
And
tough, right?
yeah,
And it is, you have to have faith, right? You have to have faith in the outcome. That doing this in your life is going to lead to something better. With a lot of, it's tough to have. It's tough to understand those timelines of how long things take. Everyone thinks, to me, and it's not just people coming out of recovery, but just in starting a business, in being starting as a sales rep, everyone. I think a lot of people have unrealistic expectations of how quickly things will progress for them.
100%. They say you overestimate what you can do in a year, but underestimate what you can do in 5.
Yeah.
That's been true in my life for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure, man. So when you started off as a sub,
Correct.
right? So in starting off as a sub, what was the progression into, into going, customer facing or, full retail?
At full retail with my business?
Or, to homeowners, yeah, where you started off as a subcontractor. What made you say, you know what, I don't want to do subcontracting anymore, I want to go sell to homeowners instead?
Yeah. Just I thought I could do a better job than all the roofers that I've been working for. I worked for a
Yeah.
handful of them, and I thought I could do a better job, and I had no idea what they were dealing with. I didn't know the business side of it. I thought what they were doing was easy. I thought I was, busting my ass and they were making all the money. That was I was wrong. I just was not. I even didn't know anything. But that was my motivation. I just felt like I could do a better job than everybody.
Yeah, it's like we don't know what we don't know, right?
Yeah.
So what were some of the things that, as you made that transition, that you're like, it was one of those things you didn't know that you didn't know this, right? Like, what were
Just
a couple of those things?
just all the stuff that happens outside of the actual roofing work, the
Yeah.
permits, the dealing with the customers, the billing, the accounting, trying to get the phone to ring. That was a big one. So I had a crew working with me when I was a sub, and then I actually had to dial it back, and I went down to 2 guys, and we started doing new construction, and it gave me more time to study to take the test.
Okay.
I needed time to do that, and doing the terrace every day till dark, it wasn't going to get me there. So we started shingling new construction. It gave me a little more time. And then I got the license. And then when I got the license, I had no work. Like that license doesn't come with a bunch of roof jobs attached to it. Then I dropped down to all the way by myself. I had no employees. So now I had my own business and a license with 0 employees because I didn't have
Wow.
work. So I got a Thumbtack account and I did repairs by myself for a while. So that first year where I did 200,000, that's really just me doing repairs by myself. maybe a roof a month that year. And I just worked by myself. And then this, like halfway through the second year, we started to pick up with like consistent work where I could bring a crew in.
What was the vision early on, right? Like when you're out there with your thumbtack leads, going out there doing repair work, what did you still have it in mind? Like I'm gonna have a good sized roofing company, or
No,
were you like, I'm just trying to pay the bills?
not even a little bit about the future or business, having
Yeah,
a business, none of that. That came later for me. I didn't even start the business with that goal or dream in mind. I
yeah,
just wanted to work for myself. I felt like I could do it better. I felt like, I didn't need a boss. I could just do this myself. That was my motivation in the beginning. It wasn't until like halfway through the second year when we started to pick up and do consistent roofs every day, where I started to see us picking up steam. That's when it all came. Uh,
okay.
that I wanted to build a real business. So that came later for me.
I mean, that kind of ties into what we were talking about in the recovery, right? Like you see these successes that are happening, and you're like, oh, wow, there's opportunity here for me. Like I can actually go this route and do something even more, do something better with my life, even have more of an impact. Um, so yeah, in the beginning, man, you were really self-employed, right? That's I like to talk about that with contractors, is being self-employed versus being a business owner. You know, and and what you were talking about is you didn't know the things that they were dealing with. Those are business owner things,
Right.
right? Those are business owner things. Um, so Thumbtack got you started. Started getting those leads, just going out doing repairs. Some of those probably turned into replacements because they needed more than a repair. Um, what were some of the other challenges you'd said, like customer communication? I mean, hiring. What all other things that you were dealing with that
Uh,
you dealt with along the way there?
Labor has never been a problem for me. I feel like because
Okay.
I did the work myself, so I know how to treat them. And a lot of the guys I have now, I used to roof with them, so I've never really had labor problems. I know labor problems are big in our industry, but that's never really been a problem I've had. Mine was getting away from the roofing jobs, like permitting.
Yeah.
Uh, Trying to save all my permit work till 11 o'clock at night, or trying to wake up at 3 in the morning to do my permits, like stuff like that. Ordering material, making sure that the dumpsters are ordered on time, just like the flow of the business, just keeping
Yeah.
everything moving. Because I was just roofing every day with my guys.
Yeah.
So
You were told to show up, right? Like it was like, hey, be at this address at this time. But what goes into be at this address at that time is a little bit different, right? It's like or stop by the shop with your trailer, pick up, and then go to this address. Like there's all those things that happen prior,
yeah,
right? There's a phone call from a homeowner saying, hey, I need some help. Then there's a sales process, then there's an ordering process and an invoicing like there's so many things that happen. So was that was that just a challenge, like, oh, I just have to learn this stuff, or was it at a point, was it kind of overwhelming?
overwhelming the whole time. The first two
Yeah,
years were overwhelming. Uh,
yeah,
we didn't even get into sales, like doing sales appointments at night, like trying to clean up real fast and go do them, or Saturdays and Sundays, and then actually putting the estimate together. All that stuff. I was trying to do all that and roof full time. Um, and then it just got overwhelming. I'm making mistakes. The guys can't work on Tuesday because I didn't get everything ready, and we have to go home. Stuff like that. It just got painful, and I just
yeah.
had to start telling myself, like, dude, you're not a roofer anymore. You're a business owner. You gotta get serious about it.
So what was the first kind of thing that you remember doing that started putting those processes in place to run it as a business?
This is a silly one, but dressing nicer.
Yeah,
Because I would run around like a rugged roofer, and that helped me out with the way the customers viewed me. So I used to sell jobs as, hey, I'm the roof guy. I'm going to come here with my crew. We're going to do a great job. Like, I'm going to be the guy putting your roof on. We're going to give you a quality roof. That's how I used to sell. And like, I was clearly a roofer. Maybe I had dirty fingernails. Like, that's how I sold myself, as the best roofer. And when you sell yourself that way, and then you do have to leave the job to go to a building department or go to a sales appointment, the homeowner comes outside. They're like, "Oh, where is he? I thought he was going to be doing my roof. I thought he was the best roofer. Why he's not here?" So I was selling myself as like, "I'm going to be on the job. I'm going to be doing your job," and then I was like handcuffing myself to the job because that's how I sold it.
yeah,
So that started, that was a problem. So I had to start presenting myself a little different, presenting myself as a business owner, selling them on my team, not me. And then the customers started to view me a little different, and I wasn't expected to be on the job, you know?
Yeah, I had a guy on the podcast, Ryan Kettering. He's a brand expert, and he says you have a brand for your company has a brand whether you know it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And so your brand back then was the roofer, right? Like you're the guy that does the work, and
Yeah.
and the expectation of that brand was you were to be on site. You were right.
That was the largest motivation for switching it from Andrew Thomas Contracting to FoxHaven, because
Yeah.
I started to see what was going on, what I was just explaining. I'm like, oh, everyone's gonna be looking for me all the time. The business is under my name.
Yep.
I want to sell jobs as the business. You want to work with our business, not me personally. So that was the motivation to change the name.
Yeah. So you started off as Andrew Thomas Contracting. You
Yeah,
put your name on it,
I
right?
didn't
And,
know
and
any
that's
better. I just thought
yeah. A
it
lot of
seemed
times that
professional.
it makes sense in the beginning, right? It makes sense in the beginning. Like this is my company. I want to, I'm putting my name on it. Um, Yeah, but that changed, right? When you started. So now, about when did you do the name change? Was that last year, year before?
January last year, so the beginning of my third year.
Okay. A lot of people get scared to do that,
I can. I don't know that I
right?
was scared. I just knew I had to do it. So
Yeah.
we always take a week off on Christmas. So I took a week off on Christmas, and I planned it out. That's when I picked the name. That's when I decided how I was going to do everything. I got the shirts organized, and we did it in a month. I'd say like everything, all the insurances and license and uniforms, the truck wraps. I think we did everything in a month. So by February, we were like 100% FoxHaven. Switched it online everywhere, and nothing really slowed down. Um,
Yeah.
Luckily, my Google My Business, it didn't take long for that to like recalibrate, and all my
Yep.
reviews were still there. So the calls still kept coming in. We were just FoxHaven.
Yep.
Yeah,
And I think that's a big concern, right? With most people in doing a brand change, they may know that they need to do it. I talk about it a lot in terms of if you are a roofing company and you call yourself a restoration company, homeowners don't understand that,
yeah,
right? Like if you are I was talking to someone the other day, because we do digital marketing, so we're always looking at search volume, what people are typing into Google. When someone people type in the word roofer 106 on average 165,000 times per month nationwide on Google. They type in roofing company about 60,000, roofing companies about 60,500 times. They type in roofing contractor about 49,500 times. They type in roof repair about 40,500 times. They type in exterior contractor. Uh, what was it? Let me try to remember here. It was 480 times per year or per month on average.
wow,
So when you're calling yourself XYZ Exteriors, when you're calling yourself XYZ Restoration or contracting, right? Contracting is another one. Contracting is very broad. Doesn't, if you're doing a lot of different services, it makes sense, right? It may make sense. If you're a remodeling company, contracting may make sense. But even in that, people will go to Google and type in, bathroom remodeling company, right? Or kitchen remodeling company. But people are looking for roofing contractors much more than these other things. So to me, there's a few reasons to make a brand change. One is that your brand isn't reflected properly to the services that you provide, right? If you are a roofing first company, and FoxHaven Roofing, right? You do roofing. It expresses when it's on the truck, when it's on when you're at the gas station, someone sees your truck and you're filling up. They're like, "Oh, hey, you do roofs?" Yes, that's what it says right there, right? Um, and then another reason, like you're saying, there's another good reason there, right? So one is to express what you do in a more clear manner to the consumer. The other, like you're talking about here, is creating a business out of it, and not just being all right, not just it's not just you, the person. It's not just Andrew Thomas, and they're calling looking for Andrew Thomas. So Another thing that I think a lot of people worry about in a rebrand is the cost,
Yeah. I,
right?
I was small when I did it, so it really wasn't that expensive.
Nice.
I can't even give you a dollar amount on it, but
No,
it
and it
didn't.
doesn't matter, but like you have to redo all your polos, you have to redo all your business cards, you have to redo if you have an office, you have to get a new sign for the office, you got to get, new wraps for the trucks, you got to get new wraps for the trailer, you got to get new, there's a lot of nuances that have to be made. But I always, and I talked to guys, some guys up in Pittsburgh. I don't know what part of Pennsylvania you're from originally, but I talked to these guys up in Pittsburgh with Planet Roof. They did a rebrand recently too, and it's just been nothing but positive,
Yeah.
And looking at your brand now, it's a much more professional appearance,
Yeah.
right?
We stand out. I feel like everyone thinks they see us everywhere. We got bright green trucks.
That's right.
Professional. It's clean. Yeah.
And it makes a big difference. If it will make a big difference. So you've already felt it, right? It's been a year or so, year and a half now about that you've had the new brand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So how's that been? What are you seeing from in the way that homeowners communicate with you and all of those things?
They view us as a real business. Like I selected FoxHaven to do my roof, not I selected Andy to do my roof. That kind of encompasses all of it. People just notice us. They think they see us everywhere because we only have 5 trucks, but they're all wrapped exactly the same, and people think they see us all over the place. We present as a larger company than we really are. People even say like that they just make comments that like they think we're a large company, and we're not. We're not at all. We're very small.
So I think the people that are attracted to a professional brand are also ones that are willing to pay for value.
Yeah, I would say that's correct.
Right. So now in your sales process, have you, I mean, it depends. I don't know, would you say you're in the mid tier of pricing, on the higher end of pricing in your market?
We're high.
You're high.
Yeah.
Right. And so, if you want to be that higher end company, you have to have that higher end appearance, right? You have to have the higher end, you have to have higher end communication. You have to have, right, all of those things. So brand change happened. That was when you guys were going from like what $500,000 a year, 800,000 a year to like then that's when you got into the multiple millions of
2.2 the year we did the January we did the brand change. We did 2.2 that year.
Did 2.2. That's awesome. And then on pace for 4 this year, and just continuing to grow. Let's talk a little bit about now. I'm in the beginning, man, it was just thumbtack leads to repairs that a couple of them turned into replacements. That was your marketing. How has your marketing progressed? What have you been focusing on that has worked for you in your marketing?
More than anything, because we do a couple different things. More than anything, it's to Google My Business reviews.
Yeah.
More than anything, we've got all perfect 5-star reviews, and people write like we get like 2-paragraph reviews sometimes. And for the people that actually read reviews, the quality of the reviews are probably better than, most people in our area. So that gets the phone to ring the most. We started doing online video, like Instagram videos, TikTok, stuff like that. We've played with Facebook ads. We do these, what do you call them? I guess they're just like magazine, like little coupon magazines, but you can target specific neighborhoods, like even down to the gated community. And they work out good because we can target, the neighborhoods we want to be in. That's about it. I messed around with the paper leads in the beginning, but they all kind of went no good. So I don't have them now.
Those are challenging.
Yeah.
So let's talk about reviews, because I think that I'm very convinced that the reputation you have on your Google business profile, formerly Google My Business listing, right? Like the reputation you have online impacts your conversion rate. It impacts the amount of people that call you. And that's kind of what you're saying too. And people are writing paragraphs about you online. So do you guys have have you put in place like a formal process for extracting those reviews from your customers?
No. That's the good thing about starting the way I started. Like I was the guy on the job every day, so like we would, they were just easy to get in the beginning. Like I don't know how many we would get a month. I can't put a number on it, but we got way more reviews in the beginning than we do now.
Okay.
I've kind of stepped away. We still get them, but not nearly the quantity of reviews because it used to be like I used to be there
So
constantly.
you used to be there. So did you just make sure you asked every time?
Yeah, just ask. That's it.
Yeah.
When you're meeting them for the final walkthrough or collecting the final check or whatever it is, you just ask, and then we'll send a little text follow up, and be a pain about it if we know we did a good job. There's
Yeah.
nothing by asking for a review 7 times. You know.
And in that you're getting those reviews. So now, I mean, this is a challenge for a lot of people, and it's a challenge for you probably. Are you the only one selling nowadays?
One other guy. We
One
split.
other guy,
Huh?
right? So are you the person picking up that final check still, or is it you and the other guy?
No, the other guy, or even the mail sometimes. Yeah.
Right. So it sounds like that's the gap there, right? Now
When
finding a
you're
way
meeting
to,
them to do a final walkthrough for every job, it's super easy because you're face to face with them. They're
yeah,
telling you what a good job you did. It's just natural to ask for a review. But
yeah, for sure.
when you're trying to touch back with them maybe a week later to get it, it's a little more
You
difficult.
miss out.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you miss out for sure. So that's this is what I love about business, and is that like, a lot of times we know things like, oh, I could do more of this, I could do better on that. To me, a lot of people stress out about that. Oh, we're not doing this, we're not doing that, we're not, like our reviews are down, like by percentage. But really, it's just an opportunity, right? Oh, we just got to change a few things, and let's figure out how to make that happen like it did in the past, right? It's simple stuff like that. So now your marketing is coming in. What have you done? Because you weren't a salesperson, right? You were the roofer, right? You were the roofer. How did you develop your sales acumen? How did you develop, how did you build yourself up as a salesperson?
I don't want to say I was a natural, but I've always been pretty good with people,
Yeah.
like pretty charismatic. So I always got along with people. I think, I don't know. I did some research. Like I got with Sumo Quote, so my presentations looked a little nicer. I collected all my samples because I used to just go to sales appointments with a piece of paper, like a contract on a piece of paper, and like hand over the piece of paper. So then I started to build like folders with our logos, the samples. The actual proposals looked a lot nicer, more information in them, and I don't know. I probably just got better with time. But for a while, I sold every job we did
Yeah.
for a long time. So like even that year we did 2.2, that was like I sold all those just like kind of on the side. I never did any like sales courses online or anything like that. So I don't know if I have a good answer to that question.
It's and that is, there are people that just have a natural tendency, right? Like they're more natural in sales. It makes more, it's a natural fit for them. How have you now in hiring someone? How did you train that person, or did you just go out and find someone that had experience and brought him in?
No, he had no experience. He was my friend from high school, and he didn't even live here. He lived in Pennsylvania. We started to get really busy, and I know I needed a number two guy, and we just started talking about it, and we made it happen. But he shadowed me. Like he hung
Yep.
out in the truck with me for the first, I don't know, probably month, and like he saw me sell jobs while he's at the table with me. He's also pretty good with people, so he had that naturally. He just needed to learn like more of the roofing knowledge to present himself
Yeah.
as an expert because people like experts. So like that's something I always had. I'm an expert, so if you ask me any question, I can answer.
Yeah.
So he needed to develop that a little bit, but once he did, he got a lot better at
So just shadowing you helped him develop that.
it. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, but
Nice.
again, he
That's awesome.
has the personality for it. He's a people person. People like him.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
got. They have to like you. They have to trust you.
That's it. People buy from who they know, like, and trust, right? And so the trust can come from those answering those tougher questions, right? Having that industry knowledge, things like that. So now you're from the install side, right? You're from the production side. Do you do anything, during production that you think helps to wow that homeowner?
The equipter helps. Everyone seems to like that. Trying to think. We're just clean. We're just
Yeah.
clean. Like the guys doing our roof, and they work for me, so you know they kind of do everything our way. They're really clean about it. We're fast. I can't think of anything like just fast, clean, and organized as a
Yeah.
whole. Uh, Signs, permit boxes, our dumpsters are bright green. They're clean looking. Just the whole job site looks very clean and organized. So when neighbors come by, you can tell we're professional.
That's right. So making that professional appearance on every job site. Um, who was your first hire?
Other than the labor,
Yes,
an office person.
an office person.
Yeah, yeah.
How did that impact your business?
Helped me out a lot because up until then I was doing all the permits, like ordering all the material, scheduling the appointments. I had my cell phone and then I had my work cell phone, which is like the Google number, like our business number. I used to carry two phones with me. So I had to answer my cell phone and answer like, "Hey, it's FoxHaven Roofing, Andrew speaking." So yeah, it helped me out big time. Freed up my mind, gave me more time, and that's when I started looking at like the marketing and how we're presenting ourselves, and started to look at that stuff because I wasn't so bogged down.
It's time, right?
I waited too long to do it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even when I rebranded, I had no employees other than my roofers. I was still by myself at that point. So yeah, I could have done it a lot earlier. Just scared to spend money. You think like you're super tight, scared to take risks. But then I say it all the time. I've never made an investment in my business that I regretted. Whether it was a piece of equipment, an employee, I've never made an investment that I regretted. Not once.
Yeah.
Now I know that moving forward, so it's a little easier to make moves.
Yeah. So looking back, if you had to, kind of, what would you have done when, right? Like you said, you might have hired this office person sooner. You might have, you've never made an investment. That's a great thing. You've never made an investment in your business that you regretted, right? Like
the office is one of them. So the office I'm staying in, you were going to ask me what other investments have I made that I regretted? The office, I would have done that way earlier. So when I started, I was using my rental. I was renting a house. I had this tiny little garage, and that's where I kept everything. Then I got a little warehouse, but it was just like a bay door in a garage. The office was still in my living room. And then I'm in the office I'm standing in now, and that was like a game changer. And it was expensive, like the rent and getting everything set up. It was a big investment, but it's worth it. People can come to the office. Like customers used to call me and be like, "Oh, can I drop the check off for you?" And I'd be like, "No, I'll meet you."
No, I'll come out.
At your house. I'm like, yeah, of course I'd rather than bring it, but I'm not come to my little rental house. So now customers can come here, vendors can come here. Just it's a professional business now.
Yeah, that makes a big difference.
People feel like they're working in a more professional environment. Like that first office manager worked in my living room. That's no good. I mean, she did it, but it just it's better for your employees too. They feel good where they work.
Yeah, and I would say from an attracting employees, right? Do you have more employees now, or is it just the small team still?
Office manager, a project manager who also helps you with sales, me, and then I've got a material runner, and then the roofers.
Nice. And how many of them are coming to the office every day?
All the ones I just named outside the roofers. The roofers don't come here. I got a repair guy that comes here, but everybody. So
now it feels like work, right? It feels like they're working for a real business.
Yeah.
If everyone was in your living room, it might get crowded.
Yeah, absolutely.
What other investments have you made in your business that you're like, this was it, man? That was a great one.
The Equipter.
Yeah.
And that was a tough one because that machine doesn't really make me money. It's really just an investment for my guys. It makes their life a little easier, but neighbors see that we're using it. It's wrapped so it looks nice, and we use it every day. I mean, it's not like we don't use it. But as far I guess if sales commission on referrals, it makes a little money, just because it just beefs up our professionalism, really.
Yeah.
So it was worth it, even though it doesn't really make me money per se. It was definitely worth it.
Yeah, there's another guy that I've had on the podcast, John Roden of Roden Roofing in Wichita. He they have a plan of where they park the Equipter every day. Like when they pull up to a job site, they park the Equipters a certain way, and they make they plan out. It's like a show for the neighborhood, right? Like
we don't need it anywhere. We'll leave it because it looks nice too. It's not like a burden.
It does, it's not especially when you wrap it.
Yeah.
especially when you wrap it.
You gotta wrap
Let,
it.
like point that out to everyone. Like especially when you wrap it, like that makes a big difference. The branding, branding is such it's the thing that you can't put a. It's hard to measure.
Hmm. Yeah, I've been looking at those catch-alls. You know what that is?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm
It's
just
another
not.
good one.
I haven't pulled the trigger on it. It seems like it might be a headache to set up and stuff. But the only reason I would buy that, because we set up pretty good and we deal with trash pretty good, is so that we have the logo in more places, and it
Yep.
just for the neighbors. It's not really for the functionality of
Yeah.
it. Hmm.
Isn't that crazy how there's stuff that you can do that it may not be as the specific thing that you need functionality wise, but it adds value to the job site.
Yeah,
Right.
it's competitive. Roofing's competitive.
It
Uh,
is.
and here in Florida, insurance companies are dropping homeowners left and right if they have an older roof. I don't know how much that happens in other parts of the country, but here we get calls all the time.
Not as much as in Florida right now.
Yeah, so
I'll just say
Florida
that.
homeowners are used to watching roofs get done around them. So like they kind of see, they know walking by a job, who's good and who's not. We get that all the time.
Yep.
I'm in a neighborhood where they're used to seeing roofs get done, and then they see us go in there and we're in and out and quick and clean. Everything looks professional. It makes a difference.
Yeah, there's so how have the changes in Florida affected you guys?
Well, we don't do much insurance restoration. We do it, but I'm like we're like 80-20 retail to insurance probably. Maybe even like 85-15. So a lot of the insurance restoration guys are struggling with the changes. For us, it just brings us more retail work because they're
Yeah.
sending out these letters saying your roof's 15 years old. We're going to drop your coverage. So for us, it just makes the phone ring a little more.
That's what I saw. Like when I've talked to a lot of people who got really worried about a lot of things that are happening, but man, there's a lot of roofs to be replaced right now with the
Yeah.
15-year rule that's going on.
It's helping us push metal too because we do more metal than anything else.
Okay.
So it's easy to tell a homeowner, like, look, you can pay for shingles now, but it's only a 15-year-old roof. It doesn't matter my warranty, the shingle manufacturer warranty. The insurance company's going to come in 15 years and tell you need a new roof. So you can pay a little more and get metal and keep them off your back for much longer, or go shingles. And we like metal; it's our favorite.
So what metal systems are you installing the most down there?
Standing seam,
Standing seam.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah. And so how has that conversation been with the homeowner now? Because you have a pain point in the future that you can anchor to the cost of that metal roof. Speak to that a little bit.
Depends on the homeowner. A
Yep,
lot of people don't look that far ahead. You
that's
know,
true.
it's harder to sell like premium designer roofs when people are like, yeah, but I'm only going to live here 8 years.
Yeah.
So it depends on who you're speaking with. It
Yeah.
works for some. Other people don't look that far ahead and they just want to put a roof on and be done with it. So it just depends on who you're talking to.
Yeah. It's not everyone's going to live there forever.
Mm-hmm.
So it understanding that financial decision probably can help with, selling the right product for sure. So how back to kind of your story out of recovery, looking back now, you know what I mean, many years out of recovery, what were the lessons, what were any of the lessons that you learned in recovery that you've applied to your business?
I don't know if I can draw like specific items. I
Yeah.
just kind of like where I just started my life over. I was starting from scratch. I moved into a little townhouse with no furniture, no nothing, and it's just where it all started. I don't
And
know if
just
I can
built
get
it.
specific lessons from all that. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Sometimes you could tie it in, sometimes you can't, right? It's not it the, so um what else have you done? So the rebrand, cost of the rebrand, we talked about that. We talked about that you spent way too much time on jobs up front because it was just you. Um, what have you learned in communicating with homeowners along the way? Because that was a big struggle when it's just you and you're running all over the place. What do you do now that is more effective in the communication with the homeowners?
Just the updates, you reaching out before they reach out to you, and we're not perfect,
Yeah,
but like that's important because when you reach out to them first and you give them an update, they're like, "Oh, he's thinking about me. Like he's got my job on their mind." when they're sitting at home wondering where you're at, like wondering if they're going to call and then they have to call you, you don't want that. But when you're, when you're working and running around all day, you're not thinking about any of these people. And then they're calling you, and then maybe you don't answer, and then you don't know what to tell them. So just staying ahead, reaching out to them before they reach out to you.
Yeah, one of my mentors in business says that, like, for customer retention and having a good customer experience is um, customers will leave you when there's or have issues with you when there's perceived indifference.
Mm-hmm.
If they perceive that you don't care, that's when the problems start, right? And so if you are the first to call, if you're the first person to make the call, that they can't perceive that indifference, right? You're expressing that that you care. So what do you think the greatest insight is that you could share with our audience that's helped you find success in your roofing business?
Just the transition from working in your business to on your business. And I still work in my business. I still do sales appointments. I still do some accounting. I still do a lot of things. The more things you can kind of replace under you, you have more time to look at what the business needs. And
Yep.
the money more than anything. Like understanding the profit and loss statement, understanding your break-even point, all that stuff. And I didn't really start looking at that stuff till this year. But I don't feel like I've made the money I should have made in these last 3 years with all the work we've done. In the beginning, I was too busy running around to look at it. And now I look at that stuff. The profitability of the jobs, how we're estimating the jobs, how we're getting to our job costs. That's a big one. So in the beginning, I would just charge people what I knew everybody else was charging. Like in that, like, all right, well, everyone else is charging around this. That's what I'll charge. I'll charge $400 per square because that's what everyone else is charging. And then I do jobs that make $1,000. So I had to start looking at that, how I was estimating jobs. We estimate them pretty in depth now, like to the penny, with the percent profit margin we need.
Yep.
And then knowing how much work you got to do in a month to cover your expenses. Because even if you're making great profits on the job, if you're not doing enough jobs in the month to cover your expenses, well, then you're still not making money. So that was a big one that this year I've really started looking at all that.
Let's talk about that a little bit more. Usually that's my last question, but you brought up a lot of things that I think are really important. So now you're looking at your per job, right?
Right.
Your actual job cost. And what are the categories that you're focusing on to make sure that you're pricing your jobs properly?
Well, I stopped pricing jobs by the square. I don't do that at all. And like people always ask me, what do you charge per square for shingle? What do you charge per square for metal? And I don't even really give them an answer because that's not how we price our jobs. So we have our little job nimbus estimating format or whatever. And for every type of roof, we have line item by line item, everything that job will take. So all the material, line item by line item, how much drip edge, how much valley, how much gable, all that. And then what's the labor going to cost? What's the permit going to cost? What's the dump going to cost? And then we get our little costs, we throw our profit margin on it, and that's the price. And then you can start, once you do that, you can start to play around with the profit margin you're estimating jobs at and like see how it'll affect your closing percentage. So like if you go in a run where everyone's selling you too expensive, you can take maybe 4% profit margin off the prices you're giving out and see how that goes. So you can start to play with it a little more because you have an idea what kind of prices you're giving at, where you're at, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because you also mentioned there's two parts of it, right? There's the specific job and your closing percentage on that, right? And then there's, you still have to have a certain number of volume to cover your fixed costs.
Right.
So you have to be able to understand both. So when you're playing with, is that what you're thinking about when you're playing with those profit margins?
So if you find out what your monthly expenses are and you have that number, well, then you know how many jobs. And then you know how many jobs at, say you're making 30% profit margin on the jobs, 30% gross. You know how many jobs you have to do at 30% gross to cover your expenses. And then everything after that you do in sales, you make 30% of, you keep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On jobs that, as you've gone through this process, on jobs that you ended up, with much less profit on, what were some of the common things that happened on those jobs?
There's so many of them. A lot of it is us going the extra mile to do a good job because I'm a roofer and I want to do everything right. So like, if a flashing detail, we needed to cut out the siding and install new flashing and trim it back together, things like that, like cutting out stucco and installing stucco, and just going above and beyond to try to, give the best quality job and not pricing for it. Missing stuff, and just pricing by the square, not knowing my numbers. I said we're high. We're high because I don't know. I pay good labor. We use good material. I have a decent amount of employees for the size of the amount of work we do. So just because some company, he might be working out of his house with one crew, that's a sub crew, where mine are employees. Like that number may work for him. It doesn't work for us.
That's right.
Pricing jobs based on what everyone else is doing means nothing. I have to know what the jobs cost me, what my business costs me.
That's where I think a lot of people make the mistake. They look at their business in compared to, right? They're not looking at what it takes to run my business. But when you look at some of these really big companies that are out there that are at, 1,000 a square, 1,200 a square, and people are like, how can they even like do that to a homeowner? How can they even sell it at that price point, right? Like it's almost like they're gouging them. But if you go back through their numbers, they're hitting their profit margins. They have more overhead. They have more marketing costs. They have more things that are built into that number that they're paying attention to. And
Right.
So as a small contractor, like what you said, I was just looking at what people in my area were doing per square. And then we just made that, like, that's what we charged. So being conscious of that, your materials, your labor, and then I like what you said is then we add our profit margin. Right.
Looking back on it, I think it might have had to be that way, because I don't know if I could have sold myself as a higher price contractor in the beginning. True. I don't think I was worth that. So maybe I just had to do jobs at low profit margins in the beginning to build up reviews and build up the process. So maybe it had to be that way.
That's true too. There is a point in your business where you may have to be the low price contractor because you don't have the authority. You don't have the brand equity. You don't have the reviews online that are very expressive of how good of work you've done. You don't have it. So maybe you do have to start off, but as you build your business, when you started, when you got that office space and when you have people that work there and you're having to add those salaries in and do those things, you have to be very conscious of that. Now the way that you estimate a job has to change. That's awesome, man. I think that was very helpful for people. Andrew, man, appreciate your time today. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. If you would like to generate more revenue through your digital marketing efforts, please visit roofermarketers.com to get a copy of the book, The Best Known Roofer. Also, check the training section of the website for guides on everything from running effective pay-per-click ads to how to properly set up your Google My Business listing. Thanks for listening.